Welcome back from that short commercial break, and we are back with the press preview as we see what's making headlines into the world of the print media. And of course, with me, I have two, the Daily Monitor and the New Vision, as I'm going to review something as we have a discussion regarding the matters that are taking place within the country that are affecting the business environment. And of course, as always, I'm going to start with the New Vision as we check out what's really making headlines in here. And I see a very interesting headline here as Buikwe tells factory to create 16,000 jobs for the natives right there. That is very remarkable. Of course, with the commissioning of the modern group tile factory, that's 16,000 Ugandans will be employed directly, and of course 3,000 indirectly to overcome the unemployment challenge of the country is facing currently. And the majority, it's going to be the youth that are going to be participating in this, since they contribute the biggest percentage of the country's population, and they are also the most unemployed within the country. And of course, I see, according to a report from the CEO of the company, says currently we are the largest tile making company in the East Africa. And he believes that they're involved in technology and the skills transfer to build capacity of Uganda's technological advancement. Very interesting. The Modern Tiles manufacturing facility, the DAB Modern Tiles Limited, and of course it's worth 85 billion right there. So you can see quite a lot has been put there in place to ensure that 16,000 personnel within that county are able to get employment. 16,000 people, imagine. That is something very remarkable right there. Of course, still in the new vision, as we still check out what's making headlines, I see migrant workers, of course, being posted that they should have certificates, yes, as a new law right there. The government has announced plans to stop export of unskilled labor. As an alternative, the government is embarking on creating mechanisms that's to promote the export of labor for people who have formal qualifications under the country's labor externalization program. So unlike before, how it has been that you could just actually travel there regardless of the qualifications that you possess, but this time around the government is taking the bar high that a Ugandan must have the qualifications for that, for whatever profession you're trying to pursue in those countries. Right there. And also further in this report, if the plan is to be implemented, it would mean that only Ugandans with proof of skills, such as a certificate in their different areas of training, will be allowed to work and leave the country to go and work abroad. So that's the new policy regarding that. And analysts say that the move would deal a blow to Ugandans who seek to work. That's as house helps and farms engaged in the labor, that's externalization. So that's quite something, really something to take notion as a Ugandan out there due to the new rules that are being put. This comes after, of course, the United Arab Emirates governments restricting Ugandans to travel in those countries. Of course, majority are being tied to criminal-related activities, and of course, which are presumed to be carried out by the people that are not really highly qualified in terms of education. It's just a perception anyway. It's not that it's the truth, but it's just a perception that majority of Ugandans have been related into so many related crimes, which is leading to their visas being blocked, and they are not able to access the visas to go into those countries to work. So the government has found it necessary, for the sake of keeping the relations that's with the government of the United Arab Emirates, that these Ugandans should actually have skills as if they are to work in those countries. I'm still checking out the business, what's making headlines in the world of business. I still in the new vision. Okay, a report says Uganda's GDP weakens to 4.9%. Of course, Uganda's real gross domestic product expanded by 4.9% in the second quarter, that's of the financial year, marginally weaker than the previous quarter of 5.1%, highlighting a tough operating climate for business. According to the Sub-Saharan Africa, that's Macroeconomic Research Instant Insights, of course, Instant Insights report released by the ABSA Group, the slower GDP growth followed a marked moderation in import taxes. The report notes that all major sectors showed improved growth. That's from the previous quarter, but the deterioration in taxes and the subsidies overshadowed these performances. So that's regarding that. Uganda's GDP weakens to 4.9%. All right, now I'll put the New Vision aside and get the Daily Monitor and see what's really making headlines in the world of business. And of course, I see a major headline here saying government speaks out on Kampala lockdown. Okay, and of course, when I go through this, of course, the Ugandans are urged to follow the standard operating procedures or risk a lockdown. That's according to Minister of Health, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, has briefed journalists yesterday, and of course, other media center regarding Ebola. The State Minister for Trade Ms. Harriet Ntabazi, summoned traders in Kampala for meeting. That's next week to explore options in the wake of the surging Ebola virus. The virus disease infections which are rising on a daily basis. The minister's revelations yesterday came 2 days after the cabinet discussed the situation of the contagion. That's on Monday, and coincided with the detailed brief to the country by the health minister, Dr. Jane Acheng, and of course, who said that the disease has killed 30 out of 109 infected persons within 35 days. 6 of the fatalities are health workers. So that's really something which is causing tension within the country. And of course, traders are saying they're not really willing to settle for a lockdown. It's going to be a little bit very inconveniencing to their operations. And but then they should follow the standard operating procedures. That's according to the Minister of Health. All right, now as I wind up, because it's exactly time for 40 minutes past the hour of 7 a.m. I'm supposed to be heading into the international news, but let me for now first review the last report, the Daily Monitor, as we see traders want to change, one design change in future modern markets. Of course, business operators across key regional cities and municipalities have called for that immediate change in the design of future markets, citing design flaws as one of the barriers affecting business in current markets. Over the years, government, with support from the African Development Bank, has built a number of multi-billion market complexes for the urban population, but they have been affected by more similar problems ranging from power outages, accessibility challenges, and space issues. We see quite a number of markets here, as I see Sorority Main Market, as we see several modern markets built by the government that's in urban areas. But of course, vendors shun them because they want a change in the structure of these markets. All right, we are done with the press review. And at this particular time, it's 41 minutes past the hour of 7 a.m. Let's get straight to the international news as we see what's making headlines in the world of business across borders. Looking at the international news, the international business report, we start with the country of Angola as the bank sector profits quadruple in 2021 according to the new reports. No, it must be 2022. Banks in Angola had an overall positive performance last year, which indicates a study carried out by a consulting firm, that's Deloitte, presented on Tuesday in Luanda. The government's action on the reduction of public debt had an impact on the financial sector. This study analyzes in detail the 25 banks that operate in the country's financial system, taking into account of their performance on several financial indicators. It also talked about economic growth and forecasts gross domestic product growth for 2022 to be around that's 3%. Analysts believe the challenges is to make these numbers reflect the real economy in people's lives, even if the Southern African nation currently faces other economic related challenges. And of course, still looking at this report, on the 20 of the 25 commercial banks registered to operate, that's in Angola, 5 control over 80% that's of total banking asset deposits and loans, according to the International Trade Administration. Wow, this is very, very remarkable that of the 25 commercial banks registered to operate in Angola, we see that 5 control 80%. 5% control 80% of total banking assets, deposits, and loans, according to the International Trade Administration. That's a research done right there. Okay, now away from Angola, we head, of course, to Russia as Mercedes out of Russian market. Mercedes-Benz becomes the latest Western company to pull out of Russia. Of course, looking into the details of this report, as we see the German-based firm stopped manufacturing in and exporting that to the country in early March. But now it says it will withdraw from the Russian market and sell shares in its subsidiaries to a local investor. Okay. Meanwhile, Ford confirmed on Wednesday that it had finalized to deal to exit the Russian market as well. Something very, very remarkable to the Russian economy. The firm had announced a full suspension of its operations in Russia in March. It has now sold its 49% stake, of course, in the Solar's Ford joint venture, although there is an option of buying the shares back within 5 years. That's in case the global situation could change anytime. Japanese Nissan left Russia earlier this month following the same move from Toyota and Renault. And Nissan took a $700 million loss in handing over its business to a state-owned entity for a nominal fee, reportedly less than £1. Okay, still, as we continue with this particular report, we see that Harald Wilhelm, chief financial officer of Mercedes, said its move out of the Russia was not expected to have any serious new effect that on the company's profits. The decision comes after many Western companies pulled out of Russia earlier this year, including Starbucks, that's McDonald's, and Coca-Cola. Okay, other firms including Jaguar Land Rover, it was just joined together. Jaguar as a brand, Land Rover, General Motors, of course, that's the one that makes the likes of the Chevrolets, one of the biggest companies in the United States of America. And then Aston Martin and Rolls-Royce all halted, of course, the deliveries to the country in the early months of the war. James Bagot, editor-in-chief of the industry website Car Dealer Magazine, has said Mercedes was in step with other companies when halting exports and suspending operations that's in Russia earlier this year, but many car makers then quickly withdrew from the country altogether. The Association of European Businesses, the AEB, said 9,558 Mercedes vehicles were sold in Russia from January, and that's to September, down to 72.8%. That's a year earlier. So that's something quite a number of companies actually are quitting the Russian economy, and that comes back to the nation. And of course, with the trade embargoes that are being put on it, the companies withdrawing. You know, what I've come to realize, if you really study, if you really go so much to follow the politics, you realize that one of the best ways somebody can wage war onto your government or your administration is when they declare the war economically, not physically. So it's what is happening in Russia currently, when we see the companies, of course, withdrawing their operations. And we also see that Russian companies' assets were frozen in the European banks and other, of course, countries where they operate internationally. So economic war. Well, right now, away from Russia, we come back to East Africa, the East African region, and this time around we are talking Kenya, and we are looking at power, electricity. Auditor General unearths 2.5 billion irregular pay in Kenya Power. The Auditor General has flagged 2.5 billion worth of irregular spending at Kenya Power in the year to June, including an expenditure of 1.2 billion, that's Kenyan shilling, to cover salaries without the approval of the Treasury. The latest audit question suggests that the state-backed electricity utility is yet to resolve the procurement problems that have cost top executives their jobs in the recent years. Okay, the bulk of the queries around the 2.6 billion Kenyan shilling supplementary budget was passed by the firm's board, that's in May, but not approved by the Treasury. These funds were meant to reinforce the company's systems, of course, systems transformer repairs and staff costs. The General Auditor further accuses the company of violating the public procurement rules by hiring generators for its Mandera and Lodwell power stations through a direct tender to power producer, that's Agrico Kenya, for 185 million, that's Kenyan shillings. Okay, Kenya Power urged that it acted within the Public Procurement Act, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act in issuing the direct tender, citing the need to ensure the standardization and compatibility of the generators within its system. The Auditor General, however, points out that the generators could have been sourced from other providers as well. Other queries raised by the auditor are over an expenditure of 114 million Kenyan shillings paid to a consultant to provide legal services to renegotiate of the power purchase agreements. Well, that's what is happening right there to our neighbors in Kenya who have just recently concluded with elections. All right, and now this time around it's exactly 50 minutes past the hour, that's of 7 a.m. It's time we get into the business tips and quotes, and of course to inspire you as an entrepreneur of what you can really see of the people that have gone ahead of you, to inspire you, because these quotes we are written based on their personal experiences and not merely quotes. That's why majority of them, you see that the people that wrote them are CEOs of renowned companies. So it's very important to take this advice very seriously, because it will benefit you in the future. Let's go for the business tips and quotes, but firstly, let's review the business tip of the day. Business tip of the day says, be prepared to evolve. The ability to think for yourself and make important decisions are both vital traits of entrepreneurship. Of course, independence are both vital traits, vital traits of entrepreneurship. Independence provides the drive to get where you want to go without the influence of others' opinions, or any outside noise. Perhaps you have a unique idea or product, service that hasn't been created before. Independence gives you the ability to put yourself out there and take the initiative to make it happen. Be prepared to evolve. You know, it's very clear. I like it when the Bible says that there is nothing new under the sun, that we keep on improving on the products that have been already existing. So that is a mindset that's an entrepreneurial mindset right there that you should adapt to ensure that at all time think of coming up with something new. Of course, it may not be for the first time it has existed on earth, but as long as it's relevant to that current generation, it is very okay. It is very relevant. Be innovative. The challenge comes in that sometimes we get so much into our comfort zones, and we rarely don't think about how tomorrow will be like. As you know, the competition in the market right there is always, I keep saying this so many times, that customers' tastes and preferences keep changing. So as an entrepreneur, having that mind of evolution is very, very, very key to enable you to be able to outstand into your business career, and also be relevant at all times. Your business should be relevant 10 years from now. It shouldn't only work for a generation. And now, like for example, remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw that there are entrepreneurs that came on the globe. But of course, some of the entrepreneurs came because their innovations were necessary at that time, but probably they weren't able to foresee what next after the COVID-19. And after the COVID-19, some definitely ran out of the business. See that? So evolution. But still, imagine, despite you can invent something in the pandemic, but you can still evolve it so that it can still be relevant even after the pandemic, because it's never going to stay forever. So be prepared to evolve, have the evolution mindset. That is going to help you right there to be relevant to the people. Remember, you're only an entrepreneur when you solve the business, when you solve the problems, when you solve the challenges of the society, and they always keep increasing day by day, they keep multiplying day by day. So your relevancy as an entrepreneur, if you can solve 10 people's problems 10 years from now, you will be very, very relevant in the society and the community, and it will keep you outstanding. All right, now we wind up the hour with the business quote of the day. The business quote of the day, of course, was written by Colin Powell, a U.S. statesman and a retired four-star general in the United States of America Army, or you can call it the U.S. Army. A dream does not become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. Yeah, something very obvious as that. No chances in life, but hard work. A dream does not become reality through magic, but it takes sweat, determination, and hard work. Magic. You know, it's quite unfortunate that sometimes being raised in a generation that perhaps we dream big, and perhaps we think that probably I'll wake up tomorrow morning, I come up with a business plan, and probably a few days I'm going to be out there selling my plan to the different people right there, and probably I'm thinking people are going to receive it instantly, not knowing what really takes to work on myself as an entrepreneur, and also to work on the plan that I'm presenting to the professionals to take a look. Probably I'm looking for sponsors to come and sponsor my project, but I somehow think that I'm just going to do that alone, single-handedly, and take it out there, and I get the funding. But it never works out that way. There is a hard work taken there. There is a sweat that is involved into this project, whenever you really wanted to take it to that level that you desire it to be. So get to understand, and now this comes back to a place where there is emphasis of teamwork. I mean, when you do something as a team, it doesn't just take one day, because each person on the team has a role they play to ensure that that project gets its intended objectives. And that cannot be done in one day. That cannot be done in 1 hour. That cannot be done in 1 week, and so many and so forth. So it's very important to understand that it takes sweat, hard work to make a dream come a reality, not just dreaming day by day, but you never have the results for that. All right, it's exactly 56 minutes past the hour of 7 a.m., 4 minutes to the top of the hour of 8 a.m. Good morning, stick around.